Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Okie dokie. Today I'm gonna bring up a thing called, as you can see above the title, beliefs are at the root of like behavioral patterns. Just to make everyone on the same page on to know why people do certain things, but most importantly why you might be doing certain things. And I'm addressing this because if you've ever, I know I have, if you've ever been like stuck on this highly annoying pattern of behavior that you keep repeating and repeating and repeating, and you feel like you're fucking stuck in it. It's like you keep choosing the thing you say or talk with other people about, like, I will never ever do this again, I will never choose this again, and then you just keep repeating it like you're on a loop. Because you consciously know that, hey, wait a second, there's something ish weird about it, I don't want to be doing it. But then there's something that you keep circling like a loop, like a fucking infinite loop. And you're like, how do I change it? And I'm like, I don't care if it's like addictive behavior or some kind of, well, it basically boils down to addictive behavior if you have like relationships where you keep doing, like, keep choosing certain types of people you know that are not like good for you, or you yourself keep expressing like certain behavior that you're like, I don't want to be doing it, or obviously you, I don't know, addictively use certain substances. I don't care if it's food, if it's cacao, or if it's like more like harder substances like alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, you name it. It all like boils down to beliefs. Brilliant. Okie dokie. And I wanted to talk about like how they actually boil down to more like very specific set of beliefs, right? Beliefs that are about your self-worth. Because when you keep doing things over and over again that you know consciously that this isn't something that I should be doing, I want to be doing, or anything that like feels good for me any longer, and you still keep doing it, it tells you that there's fear, and there's a strong belief about that you believe about you, that why you are worth that experience. Because otherwise you would change it. You really would change it. It's like, oh, this behavior is like unacceptable to me, I won't allow it. I'll do myself something different, or I communicate, the people around me to do things differently. But if you don't do it, or if it's substances, or I'm just not gonna eat it, I'm just not gonna do it, I'm not gonna, I don't know, party. But if you keep doing it, then there is, you would actually just like stop it. You would stop the behavior of like, I'm not gonna eat it, I'm not gonna do it, and that's it. You wouldn't entertain it in you. And I bet there's like a lot of things in your life you won't tolerate. You won't like, oh, okay, I'm not digging it. And it's easy. You're like, okay, I'm not digging it, out. But we usually have like certain things that kind of grasp our hold, so to speak. Okay, I'm gonna give you like small little example, like very easy one, because I've dealt with my addictions. I've dropped out a lot. I've dropped out alcohol years and years and years ago. I've dropped out cigarette smoking. I smoked heavily, like super heavily. Hello, suppressing emotions and handling like nervous system through smoking. I smoked heavily. Years, probably like tens of years. I calculated at one point. I think I smoked probably 10 to 15 years. Not all the time, I did have my breaks, but still very much. And I dropped that out of me. Surprisingly easily, actually, when you come to think of it. Okay, so besides those, I'm also very deliberate on what I consume. Food-wise or otherwise, and that boils down to self-worth. How I value myself and how I value the aspect of my life, which is health. And that tells you a bit about how, because I have no problem saying no to food that makes me feel because I value how I feel. I value how my body feels. I heavily value how my body feels because it affects my whole mental health. Not mental health, but my whole mental energy, how my day goes. So I value highly how my body functions, and that it functions gorgeously. Thus, I have no problem saying no. I have no problem of like, no, I don't want this in my life. And I don't create these loop patterns around that. And that tells you a couple of things. That tells you, A, that you're not like this box of one piece. That you can have like areas of your life where you're like doing that brilliantly, and then there's this one aspect of you where you like continue looping and looping and looping, and it's your like personal nemesis area, and you're like, why the fuck can I just not like cut it? And it just like tells you that it's correlates to that there's something in that specific area that triggers that like belief in you very strongly, and it usually boils down to you valuing in that area of your life other people's behaviors, or you value other people's state of being more than you value your own, or it's something or you have been taught, or you've taught yourself on how not to view yourself in that regard highly, if that makes any sense. So I want you to do now to think about that fucking that loop that you keep going and going and going and not being able to break it. And I want you to be really honest with yourself. When you look at that behavior that you keep repeating, how does it make you feel? Do you loathe yourself, or is it like, do you shame yourself? Because these are different manifestations of different beliefs. How does it actually like make you feel? Because that how does it make you feel gives you the clues Because usually when we are not conscious of what we're doing, we need to do like this little background. We need to go from the point, from the evidence to the root. So I want you to look at the emotion that arises from it. Like what kind of emotions that pattern keeps distilling. Shame, I don't know, sadness, anger, what is it? And then I want you have to, this is something that you just have to focus on. It's like you just have to dig into that emotion so that you get to the thought and get to see what is it that you believe to be true about you that makes it okay that the behavior happens. And that's it. I just want you to see what is it that you believe and sit with it. Because it might be horrendous to realize that, oh fuck, I actually believe that about me. But it's gonna be there if you don't look at it and be with it. And you cannot change it unless you kind of start to unravel it to a degree. So I'm gonna finish this video so that you can now take the time to actually be with it and analyze what is it. Get the emotion and get the belief and sit with it. Because there are 3 ways usually people can start to create change in those areas of their life where they feel very what's the word? Very well, they're not enjoying their life in that area, and it's either they hit rock bottom and they're like, this is too much, now I've hit the limit, this is my mark, that because it's so much that you're you have to see it. Or you, prior reaching that point, become consciously aware of it, and thus you can start to revel it. And I do not suggest doing affirmations once you've know what you this is how what I believe about myself, this is how much I value myself in that regard, this is how much I value other people over myself in that regard, or this is how low I feel about myself in that aspect of my life. So I don't suggest doing affirmations I am blah 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 something something something. I suggest there are usually 3 ways you can ask life to be could you please remove this? Or once you know what the thing is, you consciously start to basically coach, check your inner talk about yourself and start to consciously recreate new patterns of thoughts in that regards. And third, stop that behavior. Weirdly, I know it hasn't been stop that behavior, create consciously a very new habit. If this happens, this is how my healthier me would deal with it. These are the behaviors that people do, because change can come either you start believing something different or you change your behavior, and it will like unravel it. But usually also you acknowledging it now is also very similar effect to like hitting the rock bottom, because you're actually processing those emotions now rather than having them just like unconsciously happen to you, and thus you can start to create the new pattern.